Okay, so we're up to Siman Lamed Beis, Seif Lamed Gimel, very long Siman. All the halachas about writing the parshas of the Tefillin. So says the Mechaber, Ya'aseh Hashuros Shavos. When the Sefer writes the Ksav for the Tefillin, he should make the shuros flush. They should make the lines ends properly at the same place. Shelo tehei achas nichneses v'achas yotzes. One shouldn't come in and one shouldn't go out. Ulepachas yizoi shelo yichtav shalosh oisios chutz l'shita. But certainly you shouldn't have three lines outside. V'im kosum le'posal. So here we go. Here's, if you can see, it's hard to, I hope everyone can see, but you got the cloth of the mezuzah of the tefillin. So at the end, it should end flush. At the end of each line should be straight. And it shouldn't be, one is yotzei, so it goes out of that line, and one should come inside. Right? So now we can understand the Mechaber again. So the Mechaber is saying, Ya'aseh hashuros shavos, a person should make the line end at the same place. Shalotei achas nichneses, one shouldn't sort of be in a bit, you've got a little bit of a space between the end of the line. But achas yotzes, and one goes beyond the line. But what you should be careful about is not to have three letters beyond the border, the end of the line. However, it's not ma'akav, and if you did do that, it's not possible. Says the Mishnah Berurah, even one line. Why? What's the issue? Because it looks beautiful to have a very sort of a flush, nice writing on the tefillin. Shalosh oisios. So the Mechaber said that you should be careful not to write more than three letters outside of this border. The implication is that even if it's the minority of a word, it's still asa, because it doesn't make a chiluk. Of Yerideh, Siman Reisha and Gimel Posak, and in Yerideh, which is the halachas of Sefer Torah, the Posak Rambam, the Mechaber Pasuk is like the Rambam, the Loi Kaptin El Shaliyichtav Roiv Hatevachus L'Shita. There, the Rambam's shita is that the majority of the words shouldn't go beyond the end of the line. V'mateva Bas Ches Oisius, and therefore, if the word has eight letters, then you can write half of it outside of the line. And the shach over there says that we should be machmir like what the Mechaber says over here, i.e. that you shouldn't like, even if it's three letters, even if it's the miut of the teva, you shouldn't do it. But tefillin, certainly when it comes to tefillin, the borders, the space we leave on the outside of the writing, ketzarim are much more narrow than in Sefer Torah. Yesh lahachmir, one should be more machmir and to avoid going three letters out over the line. V'im kasvom kuf memtes bein shehoya hablitza betchilas hashita over Sefer, whether you going over the borders is at the beginning of the line or the end of the line. Lo posal v'im kasov teva shlema chus hashita. What if you write a whole word outside of that border? Kol shenika shenikras im oisa hashita lo v'lo ma'amud ha'acha shebetzida. So long as it's read with that line, even if you write it totally outside of the border, then you're okay. Okay, good. Lamed Dalet. Shtei oisios shehem teva achas. If you have two letters which form one whole word, lo yichtav chutz l'shita. Again, lechatchili should not write it outside of the border. Teva achas. It says the Mishnah Berurah in Sivkot and Kufnan Aleph, v'mateva hi bas sholosh. And if the word is not two letters but three letters, mutar lichtav mimena shtei oisios chutz l'shita. Then you are allowed to write two of the letters outside of the line. Shehem Rov HaTeva, Yerideh Siman Reisha Gimel V'ayim Be'halacha. Okay, Lamed Hey. Oisios Hashem. What about the letters that form the Shem Hashem? Sorich sheyu kulam b'toich hadaf. These letters should be within the line. V'lo yetze mehem klal chutz hadaf. The letters that form the names of Hashem should not be outside of the daf at all. Says the Mishnah Berurah in Kufnan Beis. Oisios Hashem. Afilu sha'Hashem she'enim nimchakin. Even other names of Hashem which are not nimchak. What does that mean? The Rambam says that there are 8 names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they're the primary names. But there are other names. They're called Kinuyin. They're like Rachum, V'chanun, and things like that. So he's saying, the Mishnah is saying, Afilu Shashemas, even not the 8 names, even the other names, She'enim M'chakin, they also shouldn't be outside of the line. Tzarich, Kufnun Gimel, Hamogen Avram, B'Shem Hagon, Harav Yitzchak Mepoizna, that abbreviation Ayin Tov stands for Olas Tomid. The Olas Tomid and the Elya Rabbah, V'kam Achronim, Asik, they conclude the Dafka Lechatchila, that's only Lechatchila, but B'diavad Ein Lahachmir. Even if the Shem Hashem goes over the line, then Ein Lahachmir, you have to be Machmir. Mikol Mokum, Im Ira came B'Sefer Torah, when it comes to Sefer Torah, Hira Limcha Kol Ashuras Elyonis, to make sure that it's perfectly flush, all the lines end in the same place, then you should erase the lines above, unless you come across the Shem Hashem, which you can't just erase that, and they should now therefore be flush with the Shem Hashem. Because since it's Efshel Sakein, it's possible to fix it in the Sefer Torah, you can do that. But if you've got the Shem Hashem in the Sefer Torah on the line above, and therefore you can't just rub it out, or we're talking about Tefillin and Mezuzahs where you can't just erase, why not? Because Shaloi Kasidron, exactly. Mishum Shaloi Kasidron, because you can't erase and sort it out. Kasha Kach B'li Tikun. Then it's Kasha B'diavad without fixing anything. Just leave it as it is. V'yesh Machmir Afilu B'diavad. There are those who are Machmir Afilu B'diavad. V'hiskim Mo Magon Rabbi Veiga and Rabbi Chaim. The Rabbi Veiga and the Derech Chaim say that one should be Machmir Afilu B'diavad. Im Bashuras Elyonis. If, however, in the lines above, Ois Ha'achron, Beis Dalad Reish V'chadomer, if the lines above, the end of the line, the last letter, is either a base, a dalad, or a reish, sheyochel lemoshchan, this is what you were saying the other day, you can stretch those letters, whether it's Sefer Torah, Tefillin, or Mezuzahs, yimshech eison, kadesh yushavas im ois, me'ashem sheyotzachus l'shita, and then you should stretch those so they should all be flushed, they should all be on the same end of the same place. Ve'ein b'zeh mishum shaloi kasidron. Okay, so let me just show you. We'll come back to the rest in a second. So if he's got a picture here, the next page. Where is it? No, it isn't. It's there. Sorry, I thought I had it. Yeah, if you can see. If the last letters, this is a bit hard to see, a reish, a base, when you can stretch the letter, you sometimes see that in the Sefer Torah, the reish goes quite long. Again, these are all tricks of the Sefer, and what he's going to try and do, he can fix it that it all goes flush with the end of the line. So he goes beyond the border, so that but he does it in a way that it's all flush. Okay, fine. Okay, let's carry on. V'chein. We're halfway through Kufn Gimel. V'chein im loy kasav rak shura achas. He only does one line. Ubashura shniya moshach Hashem chutz l'shita. And in the next line, the Shem Hashem he stretches. Yases tutim acherim v'yimshchem she'arukim at seif Hashem. The subsequent lines he should then make them parallel to the second line, which he made it a bit longer. For one line we're not makbid. In other words, he's got a picture of this here. So you imagine it's a bit small. You've got the paragraph Shema Yisrael. Eli, if you've got your picture book, it's number 6, right? So you've got Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha, but the Chaf of Elokecha went over, right? So that just leave that, and then the next line is Anochi Masavach Hayom. That should all be flush. So if one line goes over Nishkafelach and the rest of it should be flush, so that's the best way to do it. V'da. The B'yotis and Tvolos Hashem. What about not the Shem Hashem itself? What about the La Hashem Elokeichem? The Chof Mem is not part of the Shem Hashem. How do you deal with that? The B'yotis and Tvolos Hashem Haskomas Hachronim. The Ein Lahachmi B'diavad B'yotis Chus L'Shita. If that goes outside of the thing, then don't worry about that. We shouldn't be Machmir B'diavad. Okay, good. And just finishing off Lamed Hey. we said v'lo yetze mehem klal chutz ledaf. The shemus of Hashem shouldn't go out of the border. Says the Mishnah Berurah in Kuf Nun Dalet, v'afilu ois achas, even one letter. Ve'efshet da'af rubai kakula, even though we say rubai kakula, and therefore if the majority is within the border, then it's as if the whole thing is within the border. I will mix us less than the be'emes, a little bit of the letter, or a little bit of the word, less than don't worry about it. If the whole word goes out, then b'diavad is kosher. And it's not as bad as one letter going out. Because when a little bit goes out, it's called tliya. For Chaim Reisha involved, the mixas Hashem and Tefillin. We don't want a bit of the Shem Hashem being suspended, and therefore that's not respectful. So that's worse than if the whole word is out. Masha'en kein bezeh, if the whole word is out. Kein kosav b'nei Yonah. Yeah. V'hagon Rabbi Kiva Eiga b'chidush of Siman zeh machmir bezeh. He is machmir. Ayin sham av be'hagra much behedjed kavnei Yonah lahakal. That if the whole word of the Shem Hashem is out, then we're okay, and it's actually better than if one letter is out. Okay. Now we're going to talk about we know when you write the Sefer, the Shel Rosh, they write it on one parsha, right? Now we always start at the beginning of the beginning of a line. Can you see the paragraphs of Kadesh and Vayikivyecha? We start at the beginning of a line for three of them. The last one of Vahayim Shemaya is we start a little bit in. Yeah, that's what he's going to be dealing with in this sif. So it says the Mechaber Lamed Vav. Yase kol parshiyoseho pesuches. All the parshas should be pesuches. Chutz mi parsha achrona haksuva b'Torah. Apart from the fourth one, which is Vahayim Shemaya, shehi Vahayim Shemaya, sheyasena sosuma. That should be sosum, i.e., we sort of count. I think it's 9 letters, and then you write Vahayim Shemaya. V'im shina posel, and if you change it from that actually puzzles it. V'yesh machshirim, says the Ramah, v'yesh machshirim b'kulam pesuches, that all of them we machshir it, even if all of them are pesuches. Okay, that says the Mishnah Berurah. Lamed vav in sif katan kuf nun hey. Kol pasha yoseh rotzalema me'at tefillin shel yad. Sorry, I said it wrong before. The tefillin shel yad. Since all 4 of them are written on one parsha, and therefore it's shaykh to say pesucha v'suma. Yeah, as opposed to if the Shel Rosh, they're written on individual parshas, so it's not shaykh, sort of continuation from before. It's a standalone parsha. So we're talking about the Tefillin Shel Yad, which is written on one klaf. Tahainu k'shemaniach makom cholak b'soif shita achrona shel parsha rishona. Kadei tes oisius, i.e., what does it mean? In the parsha before it, if you take a look at the end of Kaddish, which is the first parsha, you finish the parsha of Kaddish not at the end of the line. Can you see the last line there? It's a bit in. Yeah, you've got a gap. That makes this one pesuches. That's what pesuches means. That it's open, right? It's following that gap over there. So therefore, this one, these are all pesuches. Okay, Masha'en Kain there, the paragraph of Shema, it goes. Can you, Eli? It's paragraph 1. It's picture 1 of that top one. Masha'en Kain Shema goes right to the end of the line. So therefore, there we leave a gap, and we make v'hoya sasumos, which means we make it 9 letters in. So now let's read the Mishnah Berurah again. Rotzolema me'atfilin shel yad. Since it's written on one piece of parchment, and it's shaykh pesucha v'stuma. Dahainu, what does that mean? When you leave the end of the line of the previous parsha, you leave it. It doesn't go to the end. There's a bit of a gap. Kadei tes oisius, a gap of 9 letters. And you start the next parsha at the beginning of a line. That second parsha is called pesucha. So too, like a Sefer Torah, where it begins at the beginning of a line, and the previous bit that doesn't end at the end of the line, that's called a Parsha Pesucha L'Kula Alma, when you've got a gap of 9 letters, previously, b'shita hakodemes lo, or b'soif shita achrona shebedaf hakodem, or the end of the line in the previous daf. Avol b'tefillin shel rosh, she'aparshas nichtoven al dalet klofim, the tefillin shel rosh, which are written, are 4 sections. Each one has its own little parsha, and each one has its own klaf. Ein lahakbid bohen b'pesuchos sustumas. We have to start worrying about pesuchos sustumas. Achnogu lechatchila lahakbid b'zeh. Lechatchila, you are makbid. Kein kosvu achronim. You write it like we said. Ayin b'behalocha k'mesh kosavim b'shem ha'prim ha'gadim. Okay, Kuf Nun Vav. What is this going on? Yase kol ha'parshas pesuches, says the Mishnah Berurah. B'pnei shegimel rishonos shem kadesh v'hoyekiviyachon shema. The first 3 of the 4, i.e., kadesh hoyekiviyachon shema, heim pesuches b'Torah. In the Torah, these parshas happen to be pesuches. Again, that means in the line before there's a gap and it doesn't go to the end of the line, and these parshas begin at the beginning of a line. Or parshas V'hoyim Shemoya, however, susuma. But the parsha of V'hoyim Shemoya in the Sefer Torah itself is susuma. Lefichach tzarich lichter b'tefillin gam kein kacha. Therefore, we imitate that in the way we write our tefillin. Tahainu she'aniach mokum cholok. At the end of Kaddish, which is the first parsha, we leave a space of 9 letters at the end of the last line, so that the next parsha, which begins at the beginning of the first line, it should be pesucha like it is in the Torah. V'chein acha parshas v'hoyekivyecha, and so too in v'hoyekivyecha, the second parsha, the last line is written not to the end of the line. We leave a gap of 9 letters. Kadei sheparshas Shema tia pesucha, that the third paragraph, which is Shema, which starts at the beginning of the line, should be pesucha. Aval parshas v'hoyim Shemoya yases susuma. But we finish the paragraph Shema at the end of the line, so that v'hoyim Shemoya should be susuma, i.e., it should start a few letters in. Exactly how it should be suma, we're going to discuss in Hashem. Parshas Kaddish, the parsha of Kaddish, which is the first one, after Batari Pesucha Machmashim Mafsik Berevach Tesach B'Shra Kodem Esla, even though in the Sefer Torah it's Pesucha, because the previous parsha ends 9 letters, with a gap of 9 letters. V'kan ein shayach zeh. But in Kaddish, which is the first one, it's not shayach because it's the first one. There's no previous parsha. V'kan ein shayach zeh. Tehi parsha rishona. Mikol mokum kiven shu maskil b'reish shita ve'ein kosel lefanei klum he nikras pesucha. No, still nonetheless it's called pesucha. The ein ksav achas soismo. Okay, ve'im shina, and the Mechaber says ve'im shina, if you change it, posel. Bein shenasa mistuma pesucha mistuma, whatever your error was, then it's posel. Says the Ramah v'yesh machshirin b'kulam pesuchos. Says the Ramah, says the Mishnah Berurah in Kuf Nun Ches, v'yesh machshirin rotzaloima, but diavad, if you didn't do it, it's okay. The time and the reasoning is this: she'af shebator parsha v'hoyim shemoya histuma. Even though you're right, v'hoyim shemoya, the 4th parsha we write in our tefillin, is in the Sefer Torah susuma. Mikol mokum kiven shebatorah eina semucha klal parsha shema. In reality, v'hoyim shemoya does not follow from Shema in the Sefer Torah. Ein ze nechshav shuri ma she'arevach bein la parsha Shema. Who pasuach v'lo yisosem k'meshos ma'arevach shlefanei b'Torah. Doesn't really make a big difference in the tefillin. Kiven shegam b'Torah yesh bein la parsha Shema she'b'Torah revach harbe pasuach, because even in the Sefer Torah there's a big gap between Shema and v'hoyim shemoya. V'chein hiskimu achronim, and so too the achronim conclude that. Fine, and therefore the Ramah says yesh machshirim kulam pesuchas, if they're all pasuch. Let's just finish off one final thing. Kuf Nun Tes olehepach, and so to the reverse. Im also eza parsha me'ashalish parshas susuma. If you do one of the first 3 parshas susuma, lekul alma pasal, then that everyone will agree will be pasal. Kein kos v'achronim. Oid kos v'dadavkim also the parshas v'hoyim shemoya parsha pesucha kosh ledezu. There are some who write, if you made the parsha v'hoyim shemoya pesucha, according to this opinion, but if there's no gap between the 4th and the 3rd, between Shema and v'hoyim shemoya, loy bedaf shelo v'loy bedaf loy parsha Shema, not on the paragraph of the v'hoyim shemoya or of Shema itself. Dahainu shehiskalosa b'reish shito elyona, i.e., you started v'hoyim shemoya at the beginning of that line. Shebedaf v'lo niach revach klal. You didn't leave a gap at all on there. Ba'is shita. V'lo b'sit of shesh pashma. Nor did you leave a gap at the end of Shema. So it's literally closed all the way. Oy sheniach revach ve'ein bo shir revach shebein parsh lefasha. Oh, you didn't leave a big enough gap. Da'ainu k'dei lichter tesoisius. Haris nechshav shinu gamo. That is considered a serious change. Sheiksuv b'Torah. U'pasal kula alma afilu parsha. And everyone says it's going to be passel. But b'soi parsha v'im shemoy ein tzorach l'niach shem revach. And at the end of the parsha, the fourth and final parsha in the Tefillin of V'hoim Shemoya, you do not need to leave a gap at all. And therefore, the final paragraph here, can you see the fourth one? You leave it, you do it right at the end. You go to the end of the line, and that seems to be the minimum.